Hi, good evening everyone. Welcome to our Thursday Mindfulness Zen. So tonight, we're going to talk about the good news about death. So you may think, what sort of good news can there be about death? Well, stay tuned and we'll discuss it after this short meditation. So tonight we're going to do loving kindness or metta meditation. And this practice helps us develop a greater quality of connection with ourselves and others. It also improves our empathy, compassion, and also resilience to anxiety and stress. So when we do this practice, it's good to be comfortable. Allow yourself to relax. So close your eyes and find a comfortable, relaxed but alert posture. Let the power of intention, which is the practice of loving kindness, lead the way. Notice the sensation of your body breathing, how the breath feels as you breathe in and out. Then allow your breath to breathe itself naturally. And as you breathe, try to let go of tension as best you can. We'll begin by offering loving kindness to ourselves. May I be safe, be happy, be healthy. May I live peacefully. Just keep repeating these 4 phrases in your own time at a rhythm and pace that is comfortable and pleasing to you. Try to bring your whole attention to each phrase as you recite it. So this is a different way of paying attention to the phrase instead of to our breath. May I be safe, be happy, be healthy. May I live peacefully. And if your mind wanders off from time to time, don't worry, it's not a problem. It's totally fine and absolutely normal. When you notice you're no longer reciting the phrases or paying attention to them, try to gradually guide yourself back, gently, without judgment, and start repeating the phrases from the beginning again. May I be safe, be happy, be healthy. May I live peacefully. Now see if you can bring to mind someone who has been good to you or kind to you. If you can think of someone like that, bring them to mind. You can say their name to yourself silently. Get an image of them, a feeling for their presence, and with a generosity of spirit, offer these loving kindness wishes to them. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy. May you live peacefully. you be safe, be happy, be healthy. May you live peacefully. Now try to bring to mind someone you know who might be struggling or having a difficult time right now. If you can think of someone like that, bring them to mind. You can say their name to yourself. Feel their presence. And with the same spirit of gift giving, of offering of good wishes, offer them these words. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy. May you live peacefully. So the key to this practice is to bring your full attention to each phrase as you recite it. You don't have to try to manufacture some feeling of loving kindness if it doesn't appear, and that's totally fine. The practice works in any case. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy. May you live peacefully. Now, see if you can bring to mind someone who is a little difficult for you, a slightly difficult person. Don't try to think of the most difficult person in your life, but someone who you have slight difficulties with. See if you can think of someone like that, and then also offer them these wishes of loving kindness. May you be safe, be happy, be healthy. May you live peacefully. And finally, let's offer loving kindness wishes to all beings, all those beings who you're aware of, as well as those who you're not aware of. May all beings be safe, be happy, be healthy. May all beings live peacefully. May all beings be safe, be happy, be healthy. May all beings live peacefully. taking your time. When you're ready, open your eyes and bring your awareness back to the room again. So thank you so much for your practice. So now we're going to talk about the good news about death. And it may seem very strange to say that there is good news about death, because in most cultures we actually turn away from talking about death. And anything that reminds us about the inevitability of death. In Chinese culture, my culture, many people are very superstitious about the number 4 because it sounds very similar to the word for death, say and say. So you will never see a house, apartment, or even a floor in a building with the number 4 on it. And also, people don't like to give clocks because it means that you're like Song Zhong, which means that you're like giving death or something like that. So we try to ignore it. And even if somebody dies, we try to get it over and done with quickly and try to forget about it. We have a funeral, maybe the body is kept for 3 days, and then the funeral, and then some ceremonies, and that's over. People try to just move on, get past death. So most people, we say, are death denying, that they don't want to think about death, and they want to ignore the fact that one day we will all die, Like some people will joke, like that life is a terminal illness. There's no cure for life except for death. So this fear that we have, this discomfort that we have about death means that if you keep talking to your friends about it, you'll probably find yourself getting less and less invitations to their dinners or to parties because people just don't feel comfortable with you talking about death. So there's an old story, Babylonian story, about a merchant in Baghdad who sends his servant to the marketplace, his manservant, to buy some supplies. But very soon afterwards, the man returns empty-handed, pale and really frightened. Then the boss says, what happened? What happened? Why did you come back without anything? And you look so terrified. Then he said, when I was going to buy all these things that you wanted, but then I bumped into a woman in the crowd. And then I turned to apologize and looked at her closely, and I recognized her. She was deaf. Then she looked at me, and she made like a threatening gesture, a threatening move. So then I turned and ran and came back. So please, Master, lend me your horse because I want to get as far away from death as I possibly can. So I will go. If you lend me your horse, I will ride to Samara, and there I will stay with some friends, and death will not find me there. So then the merchant feels very sorry for his manservant, so he lends him his horse, and the man jumps on and rides away as fast as he can. Later, the merchant has to get his supplies, so he goes to the marketplace, and there he sees Death walking around. And he asks, why? Why do you threaten my manservant that day? Then Death was like, oh, I wasn't threatening him. Actually, I was very surprised to see him. I was like, what is he doing here? In Baghdad, I was quite astonished that he was here because I have an appointment with him tonight at Samara. So that's an interesting story. And the meaning is that no matter how far we run or how fast we run, we cannot outrun our own death. It's inevitable. There are two certainties in life. When we're born, we take our first breath. That's the first certainty. And we begin our life outside of our mother's womb. And once we are born, the second certainty is that one day we'll breathe our last breath. We'll breathe out and then not breathe in again. And then our body will return to the earth. So when we're young, we never think about this stuff, you know. But the older you get, then you notice people don't stay around forever. First, your grandparents go away, then it's your parents, then maybe it's your older friends. Then eventually you realize, my turn will be coming soon. But even so, we want to keep death and dying at a distance. We don't want to be associated with death or be too close to it. But in Buddhism, and Tibetan Buddhism especially, they do not shy away from talking about death or acknowledging death as a part of life. There is this famous book, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It's actually the most popular book of Tibetan Buddhism in the West. So, why this fascination? There's actually also growing evidence in scientific research that if we acknowledge and accept that we will die someday, we don't know when, it actually contributes to our happiness and a more meaningful life. So if we take death into our lives, acknowledge it, and face it, then what can happen is that you free yourself from this worry, this anxiety of death. And then you realize life is actually can be, the way that we normally live it is quite petty. Then you can be free to actually find something more meaningful for yourself. So there is a small country, Buddhist country, called Bhutan. I'm sure many of you have heard about it. And it's often talked of as one of the happiest countries in the world, places to live. And the government there has made it part of the national curriculum to think about death from anywhere between 1 to 3 times a day. So 1 to 3 times a day, the government wants you to remind yourself about your own death. So this knowledge and understanding that we're all going to die is really hammered in to the Bhutan kind of culture and collective consciousness. So they, of course, the other thing about Bhutan we know they're very famous for is instead of focusing on the gross domestic product, which the rest of the world does, is the economic measure of growth, they focus on the gross domestic happiness index. So they will regularly do surveys of their own population. And in a recent study a few years ago, they found the Bhutan's Secretary of Happiness. His name is Dasho Kama Ura. They found that only 8.8% of Bhutanese say that they're unhappy. 8.8%, only 8.8%. Then the rest of 91.2%, they are deeply, extensively, or narrowly happy. So that's quite amazing. You know, you think about death 3 times a day, up to 3 times a day, and yet the Bhutanese, 90%, little over 90% are happy. How can that be? You know, it seems to contradict itself. But this, the scientific research shows that actually death awareness is actually good for us if we're willing to accept it. So in Kentucky, University of Kentucky, they had an experiment. They got one group of people to think about a painful visit to the dentist, and then another group of people to think about their own death. Okay. Then they kind of tested them afterwards. And what they found was the people who thought about death said they were more happy and fulfilled in life. So the scientists came to this conclusion. You know, although death is actually a very threatening fact, it's psychologically threatening, but when people start to think about it, to contemplate it, apparently our own system, our own emotional and mental system begins to search for happy thoughts. So if we choose not to think about death and really not to prepare for it, it really is the root of ignorance. So think about it this way, this is a metaphor. Pretend that you're walking along a trail and there is a cliff about 500 meters away. And then the cliff is death, and we will all walk off it. There's no alternative. Maybe think about it, look back in history. Buddha died, Jesus died. You know, you will die. I will die. So there is actually no choice. But then, don't you want to know that there is a cliff there, or you just want to close your eyes and not think about it and just keep walking? Because if you know about the cliff, then you can influence the way you walk. Maybe you will choose to walk a more scenic route and choose to walk with the people that you want to be with, not the people that you have to be with. And then you notice, you can choose a way to walk that you notice the beauty of the trail before it ends, and also say the things that you truly want to say to the people that you are walking with. So then when you start to understand that this cliff is close by and death is coming, you begin to see things differently. You can change the way you behave. You can be more compassionate. You can be more kind and more mindful in your daily life, because every moment is important, because you will never get this moment back again. But then, normally, many people don't want to hear about the cliff. They don't want to know it's there. They don't want to think about death. And after somebody falls off the cliff and dies, they just want to get over the funeral over and done with, and then go and eat some ice cream and some cake. But in Bhutan, people know about this cliff. They're happy to talk about death and then not worry about needing to eat ice cream and cake. And then they're happier than most of the rest of us who are trying to ignore death. So in Buddhism, we believe in the truth of impermanence. nothing will last forever. That's true. Nothing, even this universe, will one day disappear. So our body is only a tiny, tiny, tiny speck. So knowing this helps us also to recognize that we should live our life more meaningfully. And then in Buddhism, we also believe in rebirth, or life after life, after life after life. So this is not your present life, it's not your first or your last life. It's a series of many. So then, we don't have to be so fearful about death, because as Zen Master Song San used to say to us, it's only changing body time. So changing body time. But still, when you have this body, you have to make the most of it, because you don't know what's coming next, what kind of body you will get next round. Okay? So I used to compare, use this metaphor, like your body is like a rented car. Okay? So we might rent a small car, like a Myvi or a Mini, or we might get a mid-sized car, like a Toyota Corolla, or we might rent a really luxurious car, like a Rolls Royce or a Bentley. But regardless of what car you have, you will one day have to return it to the car hire company. The car will one day also get old and break down. So one day you have to return it. But then, who is the driver of the car? So that's the important thing. Because the driver can rent different cars. Okay, that's our body. But who are we? So that's the Zen practice. What am I? But knowing that we will die, one day we will change this car, then we can accept death more easily, like it's changing car time. One time, a student asked Zen Master Song San, because he was all caught up in this question about life and death, and he asked Zen Master Song San, asking, what is life and death? And then Zen Master Song San just very simply told him, we are life and death. And that's the truth. He was like, it's so simple, but it's very profound. We are life and death. That's all there is. So if we can accept the reality of death into our lives and not fear it so much, it can help us reorder our priorities so that we do things which are really important and which really bring meaning into our lives and also help this world. Then what this means is that recognizing that we'll die can help us find a path to greater happiness and fulfillment before that actual day arrives. So that, in a nutshell, is the good news about death. Bringing death, or recognizing death and acknowledging it in our life, actually can lead to greater happiness and a more meaningful life for you. Okay, so that's our little talk about life and death. I hope you found it helpful. If you do, please click the like and share us. So I hope you have a nice end to the week. Take care and look forward to seeing you on Monday. Bye-bye.